What's going on, folks? Welcome back to D-Life HD. This is Victor, and today I'm actually joined by my younger brother, Micah.
Hey.
And we are going to be reviewing Miitopia. So without any further delay, let's jump right into it.
I was a worker, had to upgrade to a boss. Used to live in the hood, but had to upgrade to a loft.
So, I've never played Miitopia on the 3DS. That was where it originally came from. This is actually a port of it with a few additional things added to it. But Micah actually has played lots of time on the 3DS version. How many hours do you have in it, Micah?
I don't know, but it was quite a few.
Was it over 100?
Probably.
Holy cow. Yeah, so needless to say, I'm probably the noob here, and he's the veteran player. But that's a little bit of background on the game itself. So first off, let's jump into the game modes. Michael, what kind of game modes does Miitopia feature?
It really only features one, just the main campaign.
Main campaign. So it's not really like a super multiplayer game at all. It's all a single experience, and you're mainly just making your way through the story. It's not like it has a bunch of additional things to do. It's just within that story there is a lot of variety to what you're doing, but the actual game modes itself, there's only that one campaign, and that's sort of the main objective.
Yeah, but there really is. This is a port to the Switch, and I only played the 3DS version, so there may be new things that I might not know about, and I've barely even played it.
Yes, this mainly I brought you on because you're the seasoned veteran, and you can tell us about what's in the old version of the game, and I will be able to explain what my experience was playing the new version of it, and sort of just around what that has to do. Alright, moving right along, let's discuss the UI and graphics. One interesting thing about Miitopia is that you actually are selecting Miis to play every character. It sort of has this stage experience, theater play vibe to it, so it's like you're casting every single character that you come across, even the main bad guy. And so the graphics are sort of that Wii and 3DS era Nintendo look to them with Miis, and it's very cartoony in that way. And although on the 3DS the graphics weren't fantastic, actually it's really interesting to see them in HD on here. One game that I did play similar to this on 3DS was Tomodachi Life, which had a very similar style and having chibi with Miis that you'd already created. And so seeing it in HD on the Switch is really interesting because the graphics themselves are a higher resolution, but it's still a very cheesy and cartoony look to it. As far as the UI goes, the UI is extremely simple. There's not really a whole lot to do. You can mess around with, recasting characters. Other than the main characters, the main party that you choose, you can actually recast any other character. That's something you can do in the settings. And one thing that's new with the UI in this game is you can actually go into the settings and fully customize any character. So you might have a base model Mii that you made, but you can go in there and basically just face paint over them and create anything. The customizability of this version of the game is super advanced. So what people are doing is going in and using a generic Mii and just fully customizing. Like, for example, I have one of the members of Daft Punk on my team, and previously you couldn't have really made that using the normal Mii customization. But now with the face paint thing, and you can add makeup and all these crazy hairstyles, you can basically make whatever you want. Micah, do you remember when we looked at that, any interesting characters that you might have saw when we were looking through what people had made?
Yeah, one of the new Monster Hunter Palico. That was one of the things that really blew my mind.
Yeah, somebody just went in with the painting feature and just drew one of the Palicos from the new Monster Hunter game. And it looked super awesome, and obviously I don't have the talent to do that. So I mainly just downloaded them, but that function is fully in there. The gameplay itself, which we'll get into later, is a little bit dumbed down, but that UI feature with the customization is one of the biggest draws to the game, because if you're a very artistic person, then you'll spend a lot of time working on those Miis. Moving right along, let's discuss the controls and gameplay. Well, as far as the controls go, there's actually not a whole lot you can do. Your characters are automated. It's like they're on rails, so when you're walking through the world, they automatically walk forward. It's interesting. It's more like you're just watching a movie and interacting with it. Now, when you actually get into combat, is turn-based. You know, it's sort of a dumbed-down turn-based type game where, and that's not to say it's bad, but everything's very simplified, and that's when you can start making choices. As far as the gameplay goes, Micah, why don't you tell us something about what you're mainly doing in the game?
Well, you're trying to save everyone from an evil Dark Lord that is stealing people's faces and putting it on monsters that are attacking you throughout the whole entire game. But the main point of the game is that you're on a journey through all these different realms and worlds, and the Dark Lord is in a castle at the end and you go through this enormous castle. I mean, the place is very big and has a lot of different levels to go through. And at the end, you fight him. And then, I'm not going to spoil anything else, but you'll just have to play it and find out what happens if you haven't played it yet.
So it's mainly like a quest that you're going on, and we'll sort of delve into the story maybe a little bit deeper when we get to the story portion of this review. But the main draw is all the different characters that you come across in the gameplay and all the different areas that you'll go. And you do have that turn-based combat where you're fighting a variety of different enemies and making choices based on, you know, what's best for the situation. Typical turn-based RPG choices in that way. And you also have different classes which really play into the gameplay. Is when you choose your party, you can choose lots of different classes for each character. So maybe, like for example, going back to the Daft Punk person that I chose for my party, I decided to make his class the pop star class, which makes him extremely flashy and use moves that are sort of around that style of character. And so one interesting aspect is, depending on what class or job, as they call them, you want to give your character, they're going to be using different moves, and that's something that's very remnant of JRPGs, but it's cool to see it featured here, and it adds a lot of diversity if you wanted to maybe replay it, or want to add lots of different types of jobs to the 4 main characters that you're going to have in your party. In addition to the classes, Michael, why don't you talk about briefly how you can change the what's the right word? It's the attitude of your character. Remember that function?
You can change all their sorts of personalities. You can make them... Here, I'll name the ones that I can remember. Kind, cool, energetic, stubborn, airheaded, and I think there was 2 or 3 more that I can't think of.
Like stylish or something like that was one of them.
I don't remember.
Basically, not only do you have the classes, but also choosing their personality will affect the way that they behave in battle. So somebody that's more flashy might be really stupid with their attacks. They might do crazy attacks and not really try to help the other people or plan ahead, but they might do a lot of damage. So it just depends on, you know, you can really choose what personality would fit the character that you're trying to set most. And the gameplay, it does get repetitive towards the end. If you like it, that's one good thing, but that's probably a drawback for me, is I just started to get bored of the gameplay. But the whole casting characters throughout the entire experience is where a lot of the fun comes from. And so choosing the different personalities for your cast members, and then choosing, you know, you might have, it'll tell you what the type of person is. Like, for example, one area you go to, you have come across 4 different guards guarding a giant gate. And I made them the 4 Mario Bros. Because it fit really well, because there was 4 characters I had to cast. So some of the gameplay comes down to choosing characters that you might make, or you might find through access codes that other people have made, and making them fit the role best. Like for my Dark Lord, who is the main bad guy, I made him be Strong Bad from Homestar Runner, because I thought that would be funny. Alright, moving right along, let's discuss the music and sound. You have any thoughts on the music and sound?
I mean, honestly, they use a lot of different sound effects for that game that just kind of makes it seem unique. And the music, I'd say, is pretty good, but I haven't heard it in a while, and it's just... a lot of people might really like the music because they made a whole entire thing where you can click on a thing so that you can just listen to the music without any other stuff going on in the game.
Yeah, the music is really weird sometimes. The whole atmosphere of the game is not very serious. It's very joking in tone, and it's kind of crazy at some parts. And so they definitely don't really make it very dark in the music, and even the final boss music is kind of dumb sounding. And lots of different weird sound effects are in the game, and it reminds me similar to like WarioWare, where Nintendo really brings out their weird side in their choices for the sound effects and music. It definitely does not take itself seriously, and I think that that's for the better because it's really ultimately just a game for all ages. Alright, we talked about this story briefly, but let's sort of get into what the game has to offer as far as the story goes. So this evil Dark Lord is stealing people's faces and putting them on monsters. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Micah?
I mean, I could add some of the main characters you encounter.
Sure.
There are about 3 different worlds that are at the beginning, and you find people like townsfolk. For instance, there's an elf town, a desert town, and then there's the town called Greenhorn. And you can just pick what people you think could go together well. Like, in the towns, there are people there's like a carefree person, and just things like that. There's a mother and child, and then a couple that think each other are very cute. But you can pick whoever you think goes the best with that role. Like, if you know someone that you think is a lot like that, then you can put them in there. Or if you just think someone that you find just with all the other people that are suggested that go well, then that works too. Or you can just let it pick random if you can't make your decision.
Alright, now let's just discuss the final rating. As far as the pros go, this game is extremely unique in its style, and it's very fun to play as a party game. Ironically, even though it's a single-player game, I think the Switch really lends itself to the style where you can put it up on the TV and mess around with your friends, and everybody can contribute to who you want to add for the different characters that you're going to be casting, or maybe you can have a contest to see who can make the creepiest me. And it's as far as the negatives go, you know, it's really expensive for its price. I mean, it's $10 more than the game was originally priced at, and it came out years ago. I know it came out in Japan at least in 2015 or 16. And also, it can be a little bit repetitive towards the end. But other than that, those are sort of my pros and cons. What would you say for you, Micah? Anything that you want to add as far as what's good and what's bad?
I mean, there's a lot of random things that I can mention, but one of them is something that really just connected me to the game. Me and my brother would just trade random Miis on the Mii Maker, and they were funny and random ones that we just thought were creepy. But once I put them into the game and made a team that I really, really liked, I kind of got connected to the Miis, and they literally almost seemed like real-life friends.
That's cool. I didn't really think about it that way.
I mean, because every time I go on the Mii Maker and look at them, I just think, hey, wait, it's that guy. I know that guy. But in a video game, it's not like any kinds of things I've played on a video game before. Because there are a lot of video games where you can have a character and pick its moves and things like that. But even though I'm not controlling it, it's just, you don't control a friend, but you do see, but if you're on a team in a real life game, like Capture the Flag or something like that, they're your allies. You don't control them, but you only pick what you do. So that was something I liked, and it seemed like a friend, but also that's a pretty realistic part of the game.
Alright, so I'm not going to give this game a score because I don't do scores anymore, of course. But I will say if you are getting this for a kid, especially if you can find it on a deal, it is definitely worth it. Or if you have friends that you want to play it with, it's probably worth getting to play with them. But I would definitely say getting it on a sale is going to be a lot more worth your buck, because $50 for this game is a little bit of a stretch considering its content. I mean, on a good day, you can go find Breath of the Wild on sale for $50, and that has infinitely more content. But at the root of it, Miitopia is a very fun game, even though it might be a little bit repetitive, and I would recommend it for kids, but probably not as much for someone who's looking for a hardcore Nintendo experience. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this video. We love talking to you guys. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Lastly, check out our Twitter account for gameplay of the latest releases. But most importantly of all, remember to always stay one up.